Here we are at the last step with this painting. So as a reminder, we've painted the pumpkin and let it dry. We painted this pumpkin, let it dry, and I just finished painting and letting this dry somewhat. It's been about 5 to 10 minutes since I painted this last. The next step is the same thing. We're going to work on the sky next. We put water into the area where we want the watercolor to flow. To make a wash, remember you use the edge of the brush to create the edge of the shape where you're putting the water, and in this case it's right up to the edge of the border. And I'm lifting it up a little bit so it doesn't spread out quite so much where it gets thinner. And I can also turn my brush a different direction where it thins down. I could go side to side instead of flat with it, right? It's wider this way than it is that way. Remember, when you put water down, you want to go right up to your pastel lines with the water, just like you will with the watercolors, and right up to the pencil line where the border is, and stay inside of it. And once again, be really careful not to put too much water on. Like I've already got way too much, so I'm going to take my brush, dried it out a little bit, and I'm just moving the water that's already there into places where it didn't quite go. And I'm going to go right up to my horizon line where the ground and the sky meet on both sides. That way it'll not just be a painting with color, but it'll also have some sort of space and depth relationship there as it does between the two pumpkins, right? So we're just kind of creating that illusion still, thinking about believability, even though it's an expressive color project. We're learning a little bit about space and depth. All right, so I've pretty much got my water where it needs to go for my wash to go in place. And remember, I've already preset my palette with my thinned version of the color that I'm going to put down. I'm using the yellow in the sky just for creative purposes. It could be a light blue, but then I'm going to lose my contrast between my two pumpkins if I do blue. I could have done a lighter green if I wanted to, but then I might lose contrast between the ground and the sky, and it might look like it's flattening it out because of that, rather than existing in space. So I just chose the yellow for those reasons. The yellow is a bright, sunny color. It's happy, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get across with these pumpkins. They're living in harmony and working together, right, rather than working in opposition to each other. So it's a happy existence. So I'm using my yellow to communicate that. When you're doing this, remember, use one of the 3 different kinds of washes, either a graded wash, a flat wash, or a variegated wash. And once again, I recommend against a flat wash, because a flat wash tends to look like it's flattening the area rather than going back in space at the distance. So I'm going to have less pigment where I want it to look farther away, like right at the horizon line. It's closer to us up here, or the reason that it disappears at the horizon line, where the color gets less distinct and less intense, is because there's more particles of dust and debris in the air, and it blocks the color wavelengths to get from getting back to our eyes at a distance. Whereas when it's closer, up higher, there's less of that junk in the sky, and it reflects the color back to our eyes more readily, more easily, and that way we can see the color more effectively. All right, up close, colors are more distinct, more distinct and more intense, which means pure, and they stand out better because of it. Okay, I've taken a little bit long. My paper dried a little bit on me over here, so I'm adding a little water to my brush and just coming in real quick with that watered down version of my color, and I'm not going to pick up the color anymore. Okay, and it's getting really thin there, so I'm going to tap out a little bit to thin down my brush so it fits in that area, but I could transition to my tinier little brush too, right? If I don't press hard, it's not going to spread out, and it's going to do its job. So just like we did with the other washes, tilting it and turning it will help it to go where you want it to go. it's almost finished, right? Notice once again the borders are nice and clean and white. Please don't paint the borders. Please keep them beautiful and pristine too. My light just went right at the last moment there. So turn it back on. So now we're all done with the painting. It needs to rest and dry. It needs to stay flat and ready to photograph. That's our last stage. I'm not going to be taking any videos of the photographing process. If you need to see how to photograph your artwork for my class to submit your photos, watch one of the videos that I've done maybe in discussions or in announcements or with a previous project. I've done it in several different places. So you should be able to take a good quality photo. Please submit it as a JPEG. I'm having a lot of people submit me lots of different kinds of files. It needs to be a JPEG so I can share it beyond just the grade. All right? See you when we grade these.